Welcome to the FinTech Focus TV podcast series. We're recording live at the FinTech Marketing Community event 2026. We've asked some of the speakers and delegates questions around AI that have dominated the keynote speeches today.
Hi, I'm Rashmi Prabhakar, and I'm Head of SaaS Transformation at Temenos.
So I'm Daniel Carpenter. I'm the CEO of Meritsoft, which is a cognizant company, and we operate in the post-trade cap market space, delivering platforms to global institutions effectively.
I am Tamara Kostova, the founder and CEO of a wealth tech business, passionate about converting savers into long-term investors.
So my name is Anand Sindgi. I'm the global head of brand partnerships at Dynomi. And Dynomi is a global content distribution and brand marketing platform specifically focused within the FinTech and financial services vertical.
Hi, I'm Andy Smith. I am CEO and founder of a marketing and advertising agency called Strategic. We are really tight and close to the FinTech space. It's a real strong area for us. We work on all areas of brand, storytelling, right the way through to data attributions and everything in the middle. And what we like to say is we operate at that intersection between business, brand and technology as an agency. Independent, global brands, lots of fun, lots of creativity and data stuff.
I'm Matthew Cheung, I'm CEO of iCrush Paul.
How do you see AI evolving in the next year, and how can it positively affect the industry?
So the way I see the evolution of AI is it gets embedded as part of day-to-day activity, trawling through data, research, all of the groundwork, the prep, pre, post, and during. And then I would say the application of it over the next few years, or whatever, next year, would be in removing the groundwork, the drudgery of like a lot of like manual effort, replacing it with bringing data in a way that decisions can be made quite quicker. So business decisions can be made quite quicker. How is it going to impact the industry? I would say over a period of time, what this is going to do is to free up the brains to focus on innovation, more face-to-face time with clients, and take away anything that could be previously done manually. So it's just speeding up the time to market, speeding up decision making, and just driving a lot more innovation.
I think the key bit we're looking at as a platform provider is twofold. How do we use AI to develop our products quicker, better, smarter? How do we open them up for our clients? And on the other side is how do we get our clients to interact with them and use it interoperating with their systems to use AI to their operations improvements, reducing costs, predictive analytics and stuff like that. I think the adoption over the next couple of years is going to be immense. But obviously people are trying to work out where they can get the stuff, and Cap Markets itself is struggling with that sort of opportunity. So Cognizant is a 350,000 global organization of tech, and we're helping a lot of people analyze what they need to do, but how they can leverage it, and then how they can adapt that. But it takes time, and you've got to work out these things. So everyone talks about predictive analytics, and how we can actually forecast what's going to happen and when it's going to fail, which we've already been doing with our partner like Euroclear. And then you've got other people who are saying, well, okay, how can I improve my operations systems, reduce my cost, improve my servicing, and then have guardrails around AI, which is a huge part of it. So there's an internal use and an external use for our clients. Internal ops, external client communications resolution, and then from our point of view, there's delivery technology and improving our efficiency as a provider to the industry.
I can talk about the wealth management and investment banking space, and I think what agentic AI is going to do for the industry in terms of customer outcomes is going to be phenomenal. So I think we are at that point right now at the moment where agentic AI is helping us to understand how do we get more retail investors to participate into the capital markets.
Well, I think AI, the way it's growing within the industry, it is going to be a huge benefit, especially for the FinTech marketing environment. And it is going to be able to streamline a lot of the back-end work for marketing teams, and also help with the implementation and launches of campaigns, as well as targeting campaigns to their specific audiences as well. So AI, I think, is going to be a huge benefit for our industry.
So how do I see AI evolving in the next year and positively influence the industry? I think everything's just going to get a little bit tighter. I think a lot of the tools that are in play and are being used, people are learning, and I'm hoping that we just get a bit smarter with the tools that are in place and get better at using them. So that, I mean, the positive impact on that is I think there'll be less mistakes, which we're seeing. Everyone's trying to catch up with the pace of technology. So hopefully I see it slowing down a little bit, us doubling down on the skill set to be able to use it, and just get better at being able to integrate.
ChatGPT came out 3.5 years ago, and the Transformer paper came out, even way before that as well. But things have got really, really interesting and got very fast-paced in the last probably 3-4 months. And actually, you've seen AI adoption in Anthropic versus OpenAI, in the enterprise level and at the kind of startup, scale-up companies where there's a lot more accessibility to these tools. Everyone's using Claude at the moment. But I've spent, I think, between January and maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was probably spending like 90% of my time using Claude Code. And I'm using it because there's a lot of things that you can use it to automate. There's a lot of accessibility of information across an organization as well. So I think it's been a really, really positive effect being able to use these AI native tools to really inform what you're doing, help with decision making, help with access to information, and just help automate, and save time. And as anyone in a company, everyone's doing lots of, a million different things all the time. Now you can have agents sitting there that are doing some of those things for you, which means that you become more productive. Conversely though, even though you become more productive, I was actually having this exact same discussion this morning with one of our staff. Using these tools are actually quite addictive. Like when you're using something like Claude Code, yes, it makes you 5 or 10 times more productive, but at the same time, it actually means that you're doing more hours spent building things in Claude Code because it's addictive. And you end up spending every hour that you're awake, it's okay, what can I do next? And it's kind of, you're in this point in time where at the moment, there's an article in the FT this morning actually talking about the level of AI adoption across kind of a company. The people that are using it the most are people that are professional, probably quite senior, kind of well-educated, the typical type of things that you would see. But the thing that we need to start thinking about, as a nation or as humans, is that divide is getting bigger between people that use these AI tools versus people that don't. And what I always say I do a lot of mentoring with students we work in FinTech. And one of the things I kind of compare this AI race into is there's 100 meters running race. The starting pistol for that went off a couple of years ago, and a few people are kind of zoomed ahead. There's a few people that are still on the starting line trying to figure out what they're doing. There's a few people that don't, there's a lot of people that don't even know that there's a race on in the first place. So with that kind of background, I think the people that are really adopting all these technologies are probably the more techie, kind of minded people anyway. But there's still massive, wide open door for people to adopt these technologies. It's not switching on Copilot in your organization, which if you're a big enterprise is kind of the only touch points that you might have with these tools. On the weekend, you should be looking at these things. You should be spending, a Saturday morning or a Sunday evening and just do a deep dive in all these different tools. And that's really positive for your own productivity and then your company's productivity. So I think what you're seeing now is really exciting.
And what are the challenges faced in AI adoption?
So I think the key challenge I see at the moment is risk. Everyone is concerned about risk, the guardrails, too much information being shared, GDPR compliance rules and regulations, which is why I think AI internally is the better user case. How to improve my operations, because you're within that, you can control those guardrails much better. As soon as you start externally communicating, and it begins, how do you control that process and make sure it's compliant with regulations? So I think, and that's our focus as a product provider, and then supporting our clients in how they're going to go to market, etc.
I think it's a lot about the educational side, and specifically because we work with financial institutions that do not have real agentic AI use cases on the wealth side when we are touching the customer. So I think it's the biggest dilemma for me is how can we use agentic AI to produce way much more dynamic outputs? So think about it. As a user, each one of us is very different investor, for example, a use case. So how do you personalize an investing user experience in terms of product propositions, in terms of investing plans, based on a kind of 1,000 of different perspectives? So that has been the challenge for us.
I think the challenges of adopting AI, especially within our industry, could be the compliance issues, which within the fintech and financial services is very, very strict. Also testing it, so especially how quickly AI is growing and the products that are coming out and how structured the LLMs are. It's evolving on a daily basis. So it is hard to get the marketing teams to be educated on these AI platforms and how well it's developing. So I think that's what's really slowing down the process. And I think just testing out those mechanisms with the team really will be able to spearhead the growth of AI and being implemented internally as well.
Well, so the challenges then is about control and governance from one perspective, because if you are a big company, then you might only have access to Copilot. If you're a small company, you can have access to everything. And when you just look at large language models, on a daily basis, I'm using all of them, through all the different interfaces, from Grok to Claude and everything in between. But you need the controls and governance around it. And what was really interesting, when we actually hooked up Claude Code into our CRM, the first time we were testing it out in like a sandbox, we realized that you hear all these things about MCP connectors, but there's not inbuilt security in MCP. They're just literally connectors. But once you connect them, depending on what application you're using, you might have access to everything. And that means then, like, companies need to be quite slow in how they adopt these technologies. They need to test all this stuff first, or they need to build a permissioning layer and control and governance layers around it. So I think that's something which people and firms need to think about, because it's good fun playing things at home on your own PC or on a sandbox PC, and using it at enterprise level is a whole different ballgame. That's one area. I think the other area I kind of touched on already, around a growing divide between the AI haves and the AI have-nots. But I think that should level out over time. But I think there might be some broader things we need to think about as a nation and as a race of people, to make sure people are not left behind, because that's going to compound problems you already have. The other bit around AI adoption as well, which would be quite interesting, which is what you're seeing at the moment. There's a lot of demand in the world for energy, because energy is required to run the computer, all these large language models and GPUs and so on that are needed. It's no surprise there's a big fight in the Middle East at the moment about energy, and you'll see that kind of all the time. So that's one kind of the macro geopolitical climate around energy and sovereignty and all these things will be quite interesting. But one thing we're beginning to see already is actually the cost of using AI. When they release models, sometimes you're seeing them getting throttled because people are kind of using them too much. It's obviously too expensive for those AI large language model kind of providers providing all this stuff, because they need to keep getting funding in order to keep his stuff running. So that's something where there's a geopolitical layer attached to AI, as well as a social layer, and then this kind of control and governance in how you use it. So it's kind of like a tactical piece that people need to think about, and strategic as well. So lots of things to think about when it comes to AI adoption.
Big thank you to Payout and the FinTech Marketing Community for hosting us. See you in 2027.